Alrighty! G'day everybody, it's the Doga! It's now time for episode 3 of my AC/DC album review series. So, we have now entered 1976, and we now have arrived at AC/DC's third studio album, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap. Released on the 20th of September 1976, this album contains 9 tracks and of course was recorded by the then lineup of Angus and Malcolm Young on guitars, Bon Scott on lead vocals, Mark Evans on bass guitar, and Phil Rudd on drums. My opinion, this album cover here is it's my second favourite of all time. My personal favourite is Abbey Road, even if it's just 4 guys walking a crosswalk, it's still, my opinion, the greatest, but this is the second best. Of course, this being the Australian album, that is, it's very different from those that international audiences would have grown up with. Anyway, the album kicks off with the title track, Dirty Deeds, Done Dirt Cheap, of course. Inspired by an early 1960s cartoon series called Beanie and Cecil, whose main villain was, of course, Dishonest John, who carried a business card that mentioned dirty deeds, done dirt cheap, that is. And of course, the bridge section near the end makes direct references to AC/DC's first 2 albums, alongside that of Concrete Shoes, Cyanide, Neckties, and Contracts. Dirty Deeds was the second single off the album, and was actually released as a single on the 5th of October 1976, and if you know your AC/DC history, that would have been Brian Johnson's 29th birthday. Right, the next song on the album is Ain't No Fun Waiting Round to Be a Millionaire. This song is the longest in AC/DC's back catalogue, about 7.5 minutes, depending on which version of the album you have. Internationally, it was faded out by about 40 seconds to just under 7 minutes. This particular song is perhaps best known for a line roughly around 6 minutes into the song, and I'll basically censor it here. Best known, the line known as "Get your jumbo jet out of my airport." Of course, a word has been deliberately omitted because we cannot use that word on YouTube, but I'm sure you know what it is by now, and do not put it in the comments, alright? One of the earliest instances of semi-autobiographical lyrics used in AC/DC's albums at the time. First half of the song is pretty slow and speeds up later on. The next song is, of course, There's Gonna Be Some Rockin'. Usually considered to be the least favourite by many fans, but basically this song is the absolute description of what AC/DC is all about. And when you go to see their shows, you know there's going to be some rockin' at the show tonight, and that's exactly the point. And side 1 closes out with another infamous track, Problem Child, which Bon used to introduce during performances by saying it was about Angus, but of course Mr. Scott himself was also a little bit of a problem child, but we'll not discuss that here. This song would remain a regular in the band's set lists up until at least the early 80s, and of course would reappear in 2001, and also in 2016, but we'll not talk about that, thank you very much. I think we'll move on to side 2. The next song, of course, is Squealer, which runs to just a little over 5 minutes. The subject of this song's a little on the over-the-top side. Basically, it's about Bon seducing a woman who's never had a good time. Let's just say that. We'll try and keep it as YouTube-friendly as possible. Let's just say that the woman in the song never had a good time. That's all I'm going to say. But of course, the subject of the next song is perhaps even more controversial. Big Balls, roughly running to a little over 2.5 minutes. Even though Bon deliberately tried to disguise the song with a large number of entendres, it's quite obvious he's literally talking about his own big balls, if you know what I mean. And that didn't stop Radio here from banning the song completely, because It was still a little too obvious in the end. But, you know, that's the way it is. Following that was, of course, R.I.P. Rock in Peace, which, of course, was the B-side of Dirty Deeds here in Australia, but would not be released internationally on an official basis until 2009, which I think is a load of garbage. Basically, the premises of the song is leave me alone, let me have a good time, let me rock in peace. At least that's the intention anyway. We then slow down for a 5-minute and 50-second song, probably the heaviest blues song in AC/DC's back catalogue. Ride On is one of the more serious songs, basically about being messed around in life by women and the booze and stuff. And poor Bon, you can't help but think that this is probably the saddest song in the band's history, but it is a fan favourite in amongst the community, but I don't know why, my mother doesn't like it. Don't blame her though, it's not for everyone, but I think it's a good song. And of course, the album finishes with Jailbreak, which is literally about being sentenced 6 to 16 years for taking someone out after they've been messing around with your girlfriend, and then we all know the bridge section, the attempted escape only to be taken out with a bullet straight to the back. Of course, Jailbreak is often considered to be the best in one of AC/DC's back catalogue history. I've got my words messed up here. Either way, it would take another 8 years before it finally got a stateside release. And that stupid EP, which will not be discussed in this series, thank you very much, because half of it's the Australian High Voltage. But, of course, Jailbreak would make appearances in the band's set lists from 1985 to 1991, and was also played a few times in 76 and early 77 as well. All in all, the album's roughly a little over 42 minutes, and Love at First Feel, which was on the international Dirty Deeds, would be released here as a double A-side single with Problem Child as well, but is of course not featured on this album here. Ever since I was a young boy, this was my favourite AC/DC album, and still is to this day. And this was the last album to be recorded before the band headed overseas. And I can't help but give this a 10 out of 10. Every single song on this album is incredible. And I just wish this album was still available to buy today. There's so many counterfeits of the album getting around, it's just insane. But either way, that is it for today's album review. It's a little shorter because I don't have much to say. You know what to do. Be sure to leave a like and comment down below on your opinion of the album. And if you're new to the Be A Good Doga YouTube channel, be sure to press that subscribe button. Unless you don't feel like it, which is fine by me. But until next time, this is the Doga saying have a great weekend, everybody. And we shall see you again.